We're going to go over the basics of trimming out a door. The trim detail that we're going to do on this particular door and in this entire house is very simple, looks elegant, and is easy to install. So let's get into it. Today we're going to be installing the door trim on this door with my friend Tom. And I'm going to be showing him, and so he can ask me questions and go from there. The very first thing that I do when I approach a door, when I'm teaching someone, is I'll set my combination square to 3/16 of an inch. Then I'll set the speed square against the headpiece here, give myself a nice light mark. You don't want to go heavy-handed there because you can't erase it after the fact if you forget. Do it on the leg side. Now that I have my tick marks, the next thing I like to do is examine the frame or the jamb of the door in relationship to the sheetrock that we're dealing with. And because I want to have either the jamb proud of the sheetrock or exactly even with it. That side's pretty good. You can just take a straight edge and run it across, and you can take a look at the gaps. The only problem with that is that when you do that, if it's too far out, you're going to leave a rub mark on the paint, and we don't want to do that. So, I mean, I've done it enough times where I just see it, but if you want to do that, shy of the 3.5 inch, which is the width of the trim, then you can do that. On this side, you can clearly see the sheetrock is proud of the jamb. So you can see this sheetrock here compared to the jamb, it's exposed. So there's a number of ways that you can try to address this. You could, if it was consistent all the way across, we could actually do a jamb extension and build this out. But seeing how it's nice and tight here and then loose right here, I don't want to do that. So I take a piece of material that's narrower than the trim you're using, set it on there, just give it a little massage. Sometimes you need to get a little more aggressive. You're basically just breaking the sheetrock out.
Did you ever want to score the sheetrock from the end?
You totally can.
Just
score it if you want, and then dig it out. Either way.
Crumble it out?
Yeah, you're just really just trying to break it out. You don't want to take too much of the sheetrock out, because that is how it's actually attached to the building, right? But the reality is it's going to be pretty much worthless by the time you're done. Once it starts breaking up, I did switch to just using the hammer. And I like using a dead blow hammer because it distributes its weight more than just using like a regular claw hammer. And then it doesn't tend to fracture out, right? And when I'm hitting, I'm not just hitting broad face in, I have it slightly tilted. So there's an air gap on this side, but really just damaging this, right?
Dead blow versus like a rubber mallet?
Either way, rubber would do fine. Yeah. I used to be.
Got some more oomph to it.
It does have a lot more oomph to it. A lot more directed blow. I was a mechanic for 17 years, so this is what I have. And then I tend to just kind of tap it out, try to get the rest of the loose dust to fall, and vacuum that up. Now the sheetrock is recessed where you want it. We can go back to those tick marks that we made. Now the mark that we made on the header itself, or the headpiece, that's going to be your length of your leg. Pretty simple. Just come down to the finish floor, and that's 80 3/8. Never assume both sides are the same. Always measure. 80 7/16. So however you like to work it, I tend, especially when I get into the rhythm of it, it helps me to write it down once, and then I can remember it. So let's write it down right here. Then if you ever did forget, you have it. Or just keep a notepad with you, or a piece of scrap wood, or however you want to do it.
Yep.
Now,
But then that saves you from having to, because I would like draw it out. It's all right there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you cut your pieces, if you mark it 7/16 and 3/8, then you know what side is which side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, was it the left side or the right side, or you know, whatever. As long as you remember the numbers.
You're measuring to your tech mark.
Right to there.
And that was, what's this guy?
Well, that's just where the jam comes together.
No, where?
Oh, this here?
How far up did you measure?
So it's
That
3/16 of an inch
3/16. Okay.
from this edge. Okay. And that's where that guy comes in handy.
Yep.
And 3/16 is, for me, I feel like it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. Typically 1/4 inch is the normal. I like things a little bit tighter, and it gives me a little bit of flexibility. So that's why I always set mine at 3/16. We'll do the head measurement next. For teaching purposes, we're gonna do it this way. So you cut your 2 legs, we'll install the 2 legs, and then we'll get the head. But we have our pieces cut. We have them per side, 3/8, 7/16. But a little detail I wanna show you is that the material here has been damaged at the sawmill. So you want to pay attention to where your damaged section is. Obviously that's going to go to the back, but where do you want that? Do you want it on the sheetrock side, or do you want it on the jam side? And for me, I'm going to want it on the jam side, because I'm going to see that a lot more than I'll ever look on the back side of the trim. So having a little bit of an air gap there wouldn't bother me. We just set this to the mark that we put this direction in the leg. We have a 3/16 air gap there, or reveal. You set it right on the line. So you can see that I'm far to the left and then somewhere in the middle. Right here, there's going to be a stud for the door frame, and I want to make sure I hit that stud. Right? I'm not concerned about having this equal on both sides, because if you shoot over here, right, you're shooting into nothing.
You shooting 2.5? Or?
I think so on this one. 2.5 is fine. Yep. What did I do with the combination square?
Oh, you gave it to me.
Okay, so this piece has a bow to it, so it's bowed to the outside. We have it set to the tick mark that you have there. Keep your combination square in the 3/16 measurement. Come about halfway down. Set your trim to that gap again. And now, due to that bow, the trim is now flush with the jam. You just have to push it out, right? And she'll flex over for you. By doing that in that order, where you brought this over and then swung the leg in, what it does for you is if you were to nail the bottom first and then go to that one, it's a lot harder to bring that in. Just bring it over, hold it to that gap. Okay, so we have a little bit of damage here. So we'll just go ahead and put that to the outside. And I always nail the jam first instead of the stud.
Okay.
Because that way it's harder, when you're trying to close a gap like this, it's easier to, it'll hold the trim to the jam. If you nail to the stud first, drawing that in, it's a lot harder. So now, we're ready to cut the head. And so now it's very simple. You have your measurement from outside of trim to outside of trim. We're at 43 7/16. Now, as you can see, the head detail that we're putting. So we have this little strip here that goes underneath the head that's a 1/4 inch thick. So a 1/4 inch reveal to the front, 1/4 inch reveal to the outside. So then you take your total head measurement and add 1/2 inch. All right, now we have our little strip. It's already cut down, already polyed, ready to go. We're gonna examine the headpiece here. We're looking for any sort of deficiencies in it. So on this case, anything that's damaged, if you will, have that coming down, where if you didn't have this strip, you would totally see it. But with this strip going over that, it'll hide any of that sort of issue. So pay attention to what side is polyed versus what side is not. You want your trim strip to be flush in the backside. You want a 1/4 inch on the overhang. And that's going to translate to 1/4 inch overhang over here. And we use a 23 gauge pin nailer. So it's really super tiny stuff.
They don't split anything.
Yeah. And you don't really see the heads. Right, it's like a pencil dot. And then, because we're dealing with natural products, it's gonna kind of wiggle through, right? So, I'll pin it at both ends and in the middle, typically. And then you come across, you can feel that it's got a little bit of a bow in it. So you can correct that bow, and then hit it again. Then we'll switch back to the finish gun. There's a piece of the door shim. Proud. So you can either just eyeball it like I'm doing, basically I'm feeling the difference on both sides and straightening it out. Or if you want to set your combination square to a 1/4 inch, you could do that.
Yep.
Or take the cutoff from this, which is a 1/4 inch thick. You can hold that to the end and flush it up.
Yep.
So whatever you feel the most comfortable doing, I recommend doing. I do typically kind of line those up.
So looks like a little bit of a bow in the middle. Is that? Have seen that right? Or
Yeah.
Would you then work it across just the same, or?
I typically do the ends, and then I'll futz with the center.
Okay, because it's a shorter piece too.
Yeah.
You can.
And because you're not, like this is not drawing very hard,
Yeah.
you really could use another technique where if you don't have a stud finder and you're shooting in a sheetrock, you can put 2 nails in, but have them going at different angles. So it does that number. It gives more light on the sheetrock and can draw it.
Yeah.
Like I'll do that in crown molding a lot. So a real light mark, just so I can see it. Then I'll draw that closed. Now, seeing how I framed this wall, I know there's a fairly good sized gap above this door. So that's why I went fairly high on that. Otherwise, it's just air nailing.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's as tight as it's gonna get.
Sweet.
Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns?
No, it looks nice.
Right, pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, and easier than miters, for sure.
Yeah. Miters, I won't, a customer would really have to convince me to do a miter.
If anything's not perfectly square, it's gonna throw it all off.
Right. And a sheetrock is never perfect. If I did a full tongue and groove wall, maybe, right? But then because of the way I like to do things, I would spend so much time making it so perfect that it was seamless. It doesn't pay.
Does this style have a name, or is it? They're all butt jointed, right? But is it?
I don't know if it does. This is very typical of this area in like the turn of the century, like 1900s.
Mimicking that.
Yeah, is where you really start seeing this detail. They went away from the corbel style, where they had that raised corner piece, which I really like. But this is just so much faster.
Yeah.
And it's super clean.
It's clean looking. Hey, there you go.
Nice. So we talked about how to do it, and then I showed you how to do it, and Tom got to do it. That's the first time he's ever trimmed out a door, and he did great. So it's a simple process. Just follow those simple steps and you'll be fine. You can do this. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. And as you can see, this project's coming right along. If you want to see where this project began, you can go check out this video. And if you want to see what YouTube thinks you should watch next, check this guy out. Thank you for stopping by High Peaks Home.